right, day 16, make sure you have out that lesson. Lesson 8, solve for unknown angles, angles in a triangle. Let's go ahead and look at this. Opening exercise, find the measure of the angle X in the figure to the right, explain your calculations, and it gives you a hint. It says draw an auxiliary line segment. If you remember an auxiliary line segment from the last lesson that we taught, it's just a line that I can draw that will help me to figure out measurements. So I can draw this auxiliary line, and when I do that, I realize that I can say these are parallel lines, and I have a transversal. This is my transversal. So therefore, I can say I know that the measure of this angle is 35 degrees because of corresponding angles. So if this is 35 degrees and the whole entire thing is 72, then I know that this angle here must be 37 degrees. And with that being said, looking at the bottom two lines and that transversal, because of corresponding angles, I know that X has to equal 37 degrees. All right. Review facts about angles and triangles. So we're going to do a little bit of discussion and fill in the blank here. The sum of the three angle measures of a triangle is what? 180 degrees. All three angles in a triangle add up to be 180 degrees. Blank. A point lies in the interior of a triangle if it lies in the interior of each of the angles of a triangle. That is the interior of a triangle. All right? In any triangle, the measure of the exterior angle is equal to the sum of the measure of the opposite interior angle. These are sometimes also known as remote interior angles. And we're going to talk about what that means. So if I have a triangle, the measure of the exterior angle, this is the exterior angle of the triangle, is equal to the sum of the measure of the opposite interior. So let's say that I have these. So that means that angle 1 plus angle 2 would give me the measure of angle 3. And that is my remote interior angles. Base angles of a blank triangle are equal in measure. Guys, isosceles triangles. Each angle of a blank triangle has the measure equal to 60. Equilateral. If you remember an isosceles triangle has two equal sides. So that means that the two angles are equal. All right? This is an isosceles triangle. If you remember an equilateral triangle, all three sides are equal, which means that all three angles have to be equal. And if they have to be equal, then 180 divided by 3 is 60. All right? So really quick relevant vocabulary, isosceles triangle is an isosceles triangle. It has at least two sides of equal length. Angles of a triangle determine, every triangle ABC determines three angles, namely angle BAC, angle ABC, and angle ACB. These are called the angles of triangle ABC. The exterior angles of a triangle I showed you how to draw exterior angles and how to find the measure. All right, so using all of this information that we just talked about, all right, we're going to look at some examples and figure out some of this stuff. All right, so find the measure of angles A and B in the figure to the right and justify your results. All right, so I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see, okay, I don't have anything marked being congruent, so it's probably not an isosceles triangle. It's probably not an equilateral triangle, so that kind of throws that all out. All right, so I need to figure out what does that mean. Well, I'm going to just look at this little small triangle here, and it tells me that all three angles of a triangle equal 180. So, to find A, I'm going to do 69 plus 58 gives me 127. 180 minus 127 gives me, what, 53. So I know A has to be 53 degrees. All right? So then let's look at B. Since I now know A, let's look at B. So to find the measure of angle B, let me put the measure of angle A there. All right, to find the measure of angle B, let's think about what we know. Guys, look at this. I'm given an exterior angle. It's 93 degrees. I know that an exterior angle is equal to the opposite angles. So I now know that A is 53 degrees. So in order to find B, I can subtract 93 minus 53. And that's going to give me 40. So it tells me that angle B is 40 degrees. Okay? This is where all of this information is going to be put together, and you've got to remember everything. And I realize it's kind of an overload, but the more you use it, the more you'll start to remember. Okay? All right, looking at number 2. In each figure, determine the measures of the unknown labeled angles. Give reasons for your calculations. So it wants me to find the measure of angle A. Guys, once again, look what I'm given. I'm given one remote interior angle. I'm given an exterior angle. I know that the exterior angle is the sum of these two angles. So 78 minus 42 gives me 36 degrees. All right? And the justification or the reason is exterior angles of a triangle equal the sum of the two interior opposite angles. All right? Exterior angles equal the sum of the two interior opposite angles. Okay? Now let's look at this. Not always going to be just a one-step process here. Look at this. I have 2 marks here. Those marks tell me that those two sides are equal, which means this has to be an isosceles triangle. Go back to what we talked about in isosceles triangle. The base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal. So I know that, remember the base is what it sits on? my triangle, which means I now know that this angle is 68 degrees also. All right? So that's my first step in figuring out the measure of angle B. The base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal. All right? Now, look at this. An exterior angle, the two angles opposite. So what do I have to do to those two angles? 68 plus 68, give me 136 degrees. Okay? So the sum of the angle measures of a triangle is 180 degrees. Actually, we use the exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two interior angles. You could have also done 68 plus 68 is 136. 180 minus 136 would have given you this angle, and then you could have used linear pair. Either way, several different ways that you can figure this out. All right. Look at number 4. Number 4 looks a little confusing, but it's really not. Look at what you know. This is a right triangle. Take that middle line out for just a moment. Let's pretend it's not there. If this is 90 degrees and this is 64 degrees, how would I find this measure of C? Well, 90 plus 64 is 154. All three angles would equal 180. And that would give me 26 degrees. So the measure of angle C is 26 degrees. Because the measure, or the sum of the angles measure 180 degrees. Okay? Now, how do I find the measure of angle D? Few different ways that you can do this. Let me show you. Depends on how you can see this. Depends on how you look at it. I can actually find this angle because this forms a linear pair. A linear pair is 180 degrees. So 180 minus 95 would give me the measure of this angle, which would then give me 2 of the 3 angles, and I could subtract 180 degrees. Way number 1. Way number 2, I can look at this as an exterior angle, which means that it would be equal to the sum of D and 64. So 95 minus 64 would give me 31 degrees. So the measure of angle D is 31. All right. And exterior angles equal the sum of the two interior opposite angles. Like I said, guys, you'll see that some of these, there's many ways for you to solve them. Okay? All right, number 5. We're going to do a few more, and then I'm going to allow you to do some of these on your own tonight. So we'll do 5 and 6, and that'll leave you 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So number 5 and number 6. So let's look at number 5. So the measure of angle E. Let's look at what we know. This one can be kind of tricky. What can I do here to figure this out? Well, I can look at linear pairs. I can look at the sum of angles in a triangle. Easiest way for me to start would be I don't know the easiest way for me to start this one for you. This is a multi-step problem, so we can do linear pairs. There's no markings of anything being congruent. There's no markings of any angles being congruent. So I need to think about, let's do this. Let's go, let's look at this as a triangle. I can look at it as a triangle here, or I can look at it as a triangle here. All right? With that being said, it doesn't matter which way you go. Let's look at linear pairs. Let's just kind of concentrate here. Let's concentrate with this triangle. All right, so linear pair, 180 minus 115 is 65 degrees. All right. So that means that 65 plus 34 gives me 99. All right. So that means that I just completely lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. I can find this measure here. All right. How do I do that? Well, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not right. That's 99. I told you I lost my train of thought here. So that would be 81 degrees. Okay? Now, let's see what I can do now. All right, so I found the measures of this small triangle. Now I want to find the measure of the big triangle. All right? So, let's do the same thing here. And I'll show you why. So if this is 115, that means this has to be 65. That means that has to be 95, 180 minus 95 is 85. All right? Now, if this is 85, 180 minus 85 is 95. Now look at this. 95 and 35, or 34, is 129 minus 180 is 51. Now, a lot of you are going, well, why in the world did she take me all the way around? Okay. So, I was trying to show you different ways that you can solve this. When you get a difficult problem, guys, the solution may not always be apparent. Like, I may not be able to, some of these were very simple, okay? This one required me to do some thinking. And I'm hoping that you guys were doing some thinking as we were going also. So I wanted to show you, and plus we were using a lot of the different rules and things here with this problem. Yes, I could have jumped straight to figuring this out, but I wanted you to see how sometimes it takes us a little while to get to that answer. But no matter what, we ended up with that answer. All right, so we used linear pairs, form supplementary angles. All right, and we use the sum of the angle measures of a triangle is 180 degrees. Okay, so we use that. All right, let's look at number 6. So we want to do the measure of angle F. Now, notice I have these little caret things. That means we have parallel lines, which means we have a transversal, which means maybe we can use some of those things that we've learned. So I can actually extend my parallel lines and my transversals to help me figure out what I might know. All right, so I know that since these are parallel lines and this is my transversal, that the measure of this angle is 78 degrees, because if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are equal in measure. Okay? Now, I also know that, I'm sorry, hang on. No, I'm right. Never mind. I had a thought, but just a second. So now, if I know that this angle is 78 degrees, then what do I know about these two angles? Well, the sum of these two angles have to give me 78 degrees. Okay? So, 78 minus 48 is equal to 30 degrees. So the measure of angle F is 30 degrees. Okay? I would like for you to do 7 through 11 for homework. Alright? I'd like for you to do 7 through 11 for homework. Guys, try. Alright? Before you get frustrated and give up, try.